MyProtein might be readying itself for a licensing mission to Mars and beyond, but don't let that mission overshadow your appreciation for its more terrestrial growth strategies currently. So I'll decode that introductory statement a bit later in this content, but THG, aka the company formerly known as the Hut Group, recently updated the public markets by releasing its trading statement for the third quarter of 2025. And I'll be utilizing those financial statements along with notes I took while listening to the earnings conference call and any relevant publicly disclosed information to obviously update you on the recent performance of the THG Nutrition segment, but also utilize everything as the contextual backdrop for my expanded strategic commentary around global nutrition market dynamics and trends. And just some quick financial mumbo jumbo housekeeping for the bulk of my audience that's located within the United States, since THG is not an American corporation and has different reporting standards for their public markets. This quarterly trading statement is a bit lighter on total financial metrics. Also, I did the currency conversion on all of these financial metrics, so numbers will be presented in US dollars, not British pounds. Moreover, I'll be utilizing the constant currency percentages, which just means the currency fluctuations of this multinational company are stripped out for the ease of comparison. Additionally, for those unfamiliar with the up-to-date THG portfolio configuration due to a demerger action occurring at the end of 2024, it only now includes two branded product divisions called THG Beauty and THG Nutrition. And while I believe understanding both THG branded product divisions is important, this particular content piece will only focus on updating you on the happenings within THG Nutrition, which includes the world's largest online sports nutrition brand, MyProtein, and its family of sub-brands, the largest of those being MyVitamins. But let's start with a quick financial overview of THG Nutrition. In the third quarter of 2025, THG Nutrition reported generating revenue of approximately $197 million, which increased 10% year over year. If we examine year-to-date numbers, THG Nutrition reported generating $604 million in revenue, which increased 5.3% year over year. And while THG leadership asserted the third quarter of 2025 had the highest organic growth rate in several years, driven by average selling prices recovering to pre-rebrand levels, I wouldn't necessarily be jumping for joy, as performance still lagged behind THG Nutrition revenue dollars from each of the third quarters from prior years going back to maybe 2020. However, don't let my asterisk placement moment tamper the mood of this content piece, especially with commercial momentum broad-based across categories outside of the core protein range, most notably continuing in activewear and vitamins. But maybe that's a good transition into examining a collection of recent strategic decisions that will help you better understand the THG Nutrition business story. However, since I just released THG Nutrition content, I think about 2 weeks earlier, I'm only going to include new and or updated relevant insights. So that essentially means if you hadn't checked out the previous THG Nutrition first half of 2025 interim results content yet, or just need a refresh, I'd suggest stopping this one and consuming them in chronological order for the most impactful edutainment experience. Yet, for those of you already equipped with that prerequisite information, let's begin with commentary regarding the biggest rebrand in the history of MyProtein, or as THG founder and CEO Matthew Moulding hilariously mentioned on the earnings call, what a hater online called out as the worst rebrand in history. But just to give everyone a contextual base of understanding, the MyProtein rebrand was essentially a massive undertaking that attempted to seamlessly reposition and evolve the business model of an almost billion-dollar sports nutrition legacy brand that operates in 70 territories and has several thousand SKUs. But irrespective of that brand strategy ignorance from some pundits, the transitionary impacts from the rebrand, which started its initial staggered market rollout basically 2 years ago, is now fully behind MyProtein, with unaided brand recognition now at its highest level in company history and customer loyalty improvements with strong growth in subscriptions. So while broadening further away from primarily speaking to seasoned gym enthusiasts has historically been nearly impossible for sizable legacy sports nutrition brands to accomplish successfully, MyProtein is proving thus far it is that outlier example. But shifting into a congruency on the rebrand, THG Nutrition still mainly deploys a global digital-first commerce strategy with slightly more than 80% of its total revenue coming from online channels. And THG leadership noted simultaneously with the before-mentioned average selling prices recovering to pre-rebrand levels, online channels continue to build momentum with global social commerce and marketplaces up over 91% year over year. Additionally, MyProtein is increasingly leveraging platforms like TikTok to launch exclusive products like the Impact Whey Protein collaboration with Jimmy's Iced Coffee. However, MyProtein has continued to similarly invest in offline retail partnerships where it places a limited or exclusive SKU range as part of a bigger demand generation strategy. In terms of the global offline retail footprint, MyProtein is progressing towards a year-end goal of 40,000 retail locations and a longer-term goal of 100,000 retail locations. And in the third quarter of 2025, THG leadership called out two new notable global retail expansion efforts, launching its best-selling Clear Whey products across 2,500 CVS locations in the United States and 3 distinct product categories in a Middle East supermarket chain. But as you'd expect, this ambitious level of global retail expansion will undoubtedly help drive a more diversified retail mix over the next few years. And most recently, this offline retail push has included food service channel partnerships, with THG leadership revealing a new strategic partnership with Everlast Gyms across 60 locations in the UK and Ireland, embedding the MyProtein Kitchen concept into the daily lives of those fitness community members. Although the most highlighted commercial strategy utilized for offline retail expansion continues to surround the development of MyProtein products that are sold under licensing arrangements. When done correctly, these types of retail partnerships boost customer touchpoints and broaden brand appeal. And while currently only being deployed in the 2 largest MyProtein markets of the UK and Japan, THG announced in August that it strategically partnered with a subsidiary of CJ Group, localizing manufacturing and expanding the MyProtein brand into offline channels for the first time in South Korea. But within the third quarter of 2025, THG shared strategic utilization key highlights that included its MyProtein and Mueller protein mousse becoming the #1 protein dessert in UK retail despite only launching last year, and the MyProtein and Christie's lunch pots becoming the highest loyalty items within the chilled protein ready meals merchandising set. Also, it was noted during the earnings call that isolating the UK retailer Iceland annual retail sales of the MyProtein licensed frozen meals is approaching $100 million annually. But it's important to realize that MyProtein is only capturing on their financial statements a small percentage of that retail activity. And while THG doesn't currently disclose the financial details of those licensing arrangements, it was recently referred to as below 10%, but higher than a few percent. Though previously, THG did provide the total global gross merchandise value metric to help outside stakeholders visualize the overall impact from these licensing sales. And I'd suggest it from a corporate communication strategy perspective to restart that reporting standard. But then in reference to my introductory statement, THG leadership again mentioned a number of soon to be announced exciting new partnerships, which we know from last quarter will include a global confectionery leader launching in the fourth quarter holiday period. However, what we don't know yet is if my previous Mars Incorporated prediction is correct, even though I've gained further conviction over the recent few months. But if you're curious to learn more about why I believe Mars Incorporated has the biggest potential win-win partnership upside globally for MyProtein, make sure to check out my previous content piece. Though I did want to shine more light on a few other licensing partnerships, including expansion of the before-mentioned Jimmy's Iced Coffee product collabs into the ready-to-mix powder and ready-to-eat bar formats. Additionally, the co-branded range from High Rocks, originally launched more than a year ago, now has expanded beyond 30 products. And I've talked about the global fitness competition High Rocks previously, but if you're unfamiliar, it's essentially standardized CrossFit workouts within a similar race format to Spartan Race, but the budding sport has a rapidly growing rabid fan base and expects to see 1.5 million participants this year. And then since I'm mentioning THG Nutrition product development capabilities, let's end this content piece exactly like the last one, as the disposal of Claremont Ingredients actually occurred at the beginning of the third quarter of 2025. But selling Claremont Ingredients to Nactarome Group for more than double its initial acquisition price less than 5 years ago is part of the THG corporate strategy to simplify operations, focus on core strengths, and improve its balance sheet by moving towards a net cash position. In the third quarter of 2025, the M&A transaction negatively impacted revenue growth for THG Nutrition by 40 basis points, but beyond the financial aspects, THG maintains a long-term supply contract with Claremont Ingredients post-sale, as the broader international capabilities of Nactarome Group will be pivotal in launching the long list of global MyProtein licensing collaborations. But I hope you enjoyed the first principles thinking that went into my latest YouTube video. If you did, can you do me a favor by hitting that like button? That quick and free action helps YouTube know my content is worth spreading to more people. Also, we're getting really close to reaching my next subscriber goal, and it would be great if you join me on this journey. But to do that, we need to fix the fact that slightly more than 3/4 of you that are watching this video right now are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, and that hurts my feelings. Regardless, I want to thank you for giving me some of your attention and time, and I'll see you on the next one.